transfer.
Right.
So his budget was sort of premised on the current year in which he's got some people out or on an
correct.
illness, and that's why he needs it this year, and we'll see what happens next year. Hopefully it'll be closer to last year rather than the current year.
That's correct. And in both the police and the fire department budgets, it's really hard to get a good handle on an overtime number because just as you said, Madam Chair, that you just don't know from year to year how many injuries you're going to have and how you're going to have to plug those holes. But I did speak with Fire Chief Jack Grant, and he understood the cuts and he accepts the cuts. General insurance, I'm reducing the general insurance budget to fiscal year 15 level. So that's a $59,229 cut.
Is that attainable?
Yes.
You explain what the general insurance is?
General insurance is workers' comp, your buildings insurance, your vehicle insurance,
Gotcha. Okay.
claims. Group health insurance, I'm recommending a $350,000 cut to the fiscal year 16 original request for group health insurance. The town accountant and I worked, as the chair said, yesterday on the group insurance budget. As you know, when we compile the group insurance budget in November, it's really early in the year, and we don't have a good handle on the claims for this current year. So we always have to, this year in particular, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had some high incident claims, and so it was on the advice of our consultant to submit the budget at a 4% increase. We met with the consultant last week, and now we have a good 6 months look at our claims for this year. They did kind of level off, and we feel comfortable with the 2% increase for group insurance. We also looked, again, when we're compiling the budget in November, the census numbers, we go with what we have in November. We were able to tweak those a little bit because we took a snapshot of how many people are in the plan today. So that helped us to reduce it as well. So we're recommending a $350,000 reduction in group health insurance. We're taking $50,000 of that to help offset our town department cuts, and I will be proposing to the warrant committee that the other $300,000 maybe be used to help offset the snow and ice deficit. Requesting information technology $500 reduction. And spoke with Jim Scroy, and that will be a reduction to his equipment expense. So he was comfortable with the $500. Inspectional services is a $2,100 reduction. That will be a reduction to the meetings and dues and membership line. But it was important in speaking with the building commissioner that the extra hours get funded for his local inspector and his plumbing inspector. Those were the two things that he really needed me to make sure that I was able to fund within this budget.
And I think that's important.
Because
they're revenue generators.
Yes, yeah. And the amount of work that comes out of that office, he really needs the assistance. The law budget, I'm reducing the law budget by $28,000, which will bring it to the same appropriation as fiscal year 15's appropriation. The police, I'm reducing the police by $117,855, and that is the police chief. I spoke with him. He's comfortable. No one's pleased, but he's comfortable and can live with the cuts. It will be that we will not be funding the 2 new patrol officer positions that he was looking to fund. There'll be a little bit of reduction to his overtime number, and then there were some other benefits associated with those 2 new patrol officer positions that we backed out of that budget as well. The Selectmen's office will be taking a $600 reduction, which will bring us $600 below fiscal year 15 funding.
Tom,
and
you
that
don't
is
get paid next
because,
year.
Yeah.
well, we went to the MMA conference, Tom, so we're all set, right? So those are your departments under the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction. The department's not under the Board of Selectmen's jurisdiction. The Board of Assessors, I spoke with Bob Bushway, who spoke with his Board of Assessors, and they're comfortable. It's a $500 reduction, and that will be a reduction to his meeting expenses. The cemetery is a $6,000 reduction, and that will be a reduction to... We'll be reducing her overtime to fiscal year 15 appropriation, and it will be reducing her equipment line approximately $3,500. The library is a reduction of $15,652, and this will be they were requesting 2 new positions at the library. This will be one of those positions. It's a reference librarian that we will not be funding. I spoke with Will Adamschek, and he spoke with, I believe his chair is Kristen Hodlin, and they were comfortable with this cut. Park Department is a $30,338 reduction, and that is, I will not be funding their W-2 labor position. I spoke with Dave Perdios, the superintendent, and he spoke with his board, and they understand, and they will live with that cut. It was more important that they have some general expense items funded in their budget that they had requested. The planning board had requested the senior admin clerk be funded at a full-time slot, which is 37.5 hours a week. We're not going to be able to do that, so the recommended cut for the planning board is $18,611, so she will remain at her current hours. I spoke with the planning director, who spoke with his board, and he accepted that cut. Town clerk's budget is going to be cut by $500, and that is going to be reducing her advertising line, and she's comfortable with that cut. And the warrant committee is cutting its budget by $300. And Ted Hayes said that his committee wouldn't go to as many training seminars. So that is the recommended cut, which totals $651,499.
All right, so this is the town administrator's recommendation, and this will be, assuming we vote, it will be presented to the warrant committee for their consideration. It's possible that they may agree, not agree, agree with some of it, not agree with some of it, and make some changes, but at least they had asked us to give us priorities, and so I think we should have a discussion as to, or any comments or questions we have for the town administrator, how comfortable we are with these.
Well, if I could,
Amounts.
just again, from my own knowledge, this is based on a level service,
That's correct.
but not level dollar.
It's a level service.
So what happens if the warrant committee just approves a level dollar?
I don't think they're really considering that right now,
They-
but
No.
These budget cuts are predicated on what the warrant committee terms their scenario E,
Okay.
and so if
And scenario E is a level service.
level service.
Okay.
The town side had to cut $651,499 from the town side budgets under scenario E, which uses some free cash to fund operations.
but to a degree, it's still a little bit above level dollar.
That's correct.
Right.
It's to fund contractual obligations over level dollar plus 595, which, again, this goes to the use of the free cash. That, just so for anyone watching, there were 6 scenarios. A and B were predicated on overrides, different amounts. Scenario C was to fund $422,000 below the contractual amount. And when they said contractual, they meant level dollar plus if you had a contract in your budget, whether it was for equipment or something else, that was factored in so that it didn't impact your salary line, because warrant committee will give a total amount to these departments, and then they'll have to break it down between salary and expenses, general expenses. Scenario D was to fund all contractual obligations. E was, which we're looking at, was to fund contractual obligations plus about $600,000, and F was fund contractual obligations plus a slightly higher amount. So everything is predicated, this whole scenario that Anne Marie's presenting is in turn based on the warrant committee's budget scenario E, like Edward.
I brought this up several times this year, and it really hasn't been discussed yet, but I think because of the tightness of these budgets, that we really should consider asking the warrant committee to at least the bigger public safety budgets, if nothing else, to be bottom line budgets. And it's not unprecedented. We've done it many times in the past.
Oh, you mean so that they can move between salary and
Yes,
expenses, like the school
absolutely.
budget?
Absolutely. I think this is the year to do it.
Is there any reason we couldn't do it?
No.
I'm not sure why it hasn't.
It's just got to be proposed that way, that's all.
Explain that again, Tom.
A bottom line budget, so that we did it back, couple of years when I was on the warrant committee. I think we, so,
6 years? 5
yeah,
years?
7 or 8 years ago, when the last kind of really tight budgets we had. I mean, really, really tight budgets. And I think we gave fire and police, bottom line budgets so that they can, the same as the schools, they just get one number and they can manage that number any way they choose. So it helps them in terms of their overtime and you know, just in general, just being able to manage their budget.
So in the warrant, when town meeting votes, they vote a personnel salary and wage line, and then they vote a general expense line. And so if your salary and wage line is $100, you cannot expend above $100. If your general expense is $50, you cannot expend above $50. So what Tom is recommending is that you just have police 150. And then that way, it's just one number, and they can move within salary and wage and general expense.
Otherwise, statutorily, you can't. So once you've used that budget up, even if you've got room, in your general expense, or if you got room in your personnel side and you need some general expense, you can't do it. You would have to call another town meeting to do it.
Until the
year
end of the...
Until year end,
last-
and then you get the
3%.
3%. But otherwise, you know, this would give them unlimited authority to move,
Move within lines.
They can use general expense money for salary and wages.
or vice
Because
versa.
it wouldn't be called that, it would just be one line item.
Right.
Whereas it usually is, so,
Right,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
like the schools, as you
Yeah.
said, yeah. I like that
So if we've
idea.
done that in the past, now I kind of vaguely remember that. So there shouldn't be any reason we can't do it again.
No, there's no
You
reason you
make that
can't.
recommendation tomorrow night.
It certainly takes the pressure off to a degree
Yeah.
of those bigger departments.
You see any downside with
Police
that,
and
Amy?
fire?
I think police, fire, and DPW, to be
Police and
honest.
DPW.
No,
No downside.
not that I,
DPW, is there any reason with water and sewer
Water
enterprise?
and Water and sewer you gotta keep
enterprise is
separate.
gonna be
Those will be in separate articles.
Separated out.
So there shouldn't be any reason, maybe in the past it couldn't have been done in DPW, but with the new enterprise funds, probably there's no reason?
I don't think there's any
for
reason.
DPW not to take the same approach?
Tommy, you're just saying with the big budgets.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I like that idea. If there is no downside.
No, it's good.
So do we have any comments on the town administrator's proposals?
No, other than, you want to bring us up to date a little bit on, I know there were discussions about snow and ice deficit, and to a degree, the scenario E, has changed a little bit.
I've had several conversations with the Warren Committee Chair, including late this afternoon, about the snow and ice numbers, and Anne Marie, Amy have been looking at, and Ted Hayes has been looking at some different options, and obviously one of them, the town administrator is proposing here, is to recommend that he consider using $300,000 from the group health insurance savings
Yep.
towards the snow and ice deficit. I know that Ted is looking at also the potential FEMA reimbursement that we're getting from the 2013 storms. That's going to depend on when that comes in. It's not in yet, but if it's in this year, before the end of June, then that's a potential. But otherwise, you may have to, that may float to free cash. I think he's also looking at potentially cost savings in the solid waste line, because we went to the new Sunrise Scavenger. So
After fiscal year 15.
he's looking at a variety of different uses, or sources that he can combine towards the snow and ice deficit. The last numbers we had from Joe a week ago were $670,000, but we don't know what the month of March will hold. So this is going to be a work in process until we get through the winter
Right.
season and find out what the number is, and we'll look at different items. But I know that Ted is spending some time, and Anne Marie and Amy have looked at revenue numbers and looked at some other possibilities. Is there anything you want to add to that, Anne Marie?
No, I think you covered it all. The group insurance number, the FEMA number, some, maybe some 3% at the end of this fiscal year 15.
Right.
Where we can identify some savings in budgets that have had vacancies for a period of time in their department.
We'll also look at the reserve fund and see where we are in that as time goes on.
Can you explain what the unemployment insurance is, and do we use $100,000 every year? Do we use it all?
Almost every year, yeah.
yeah, this year it's going to be right close to 100,000. What it is people who file and receive unemployment benefits, we get a bill from the state.
We don't pay into the insurance fund. We're
paying the
self-insured for,
Right.
For unemployment.
So-
as most nonprofits and virtually all municipalities are.
So historically, last year, we didn't have to go for an RFT. I'm not sure about the year before, but when I first started here, like 10, 11, 12, we exceeded that number and we'd go for an RFT every year. But that was when the
It
unemployment
was
benefits were extended, so you had a lot of people collecting for a longer period of time. But I looked at that, where we stand for fiscal 16 so far year to date, and I think we're going to come right in. I'm not anticipating the need for an RFT, but I don't think I'll be turning back much either.
Right. But part of the problem, even though you say, well, there are no real layoffs, so, you know, so where's it? A lot of it comes from the schools because of the
Most of it.
substitute teachers, and just the unemployment law is just so crazy. The people, you would say, they're not unemployed. Well, they got unemployment in many, many situations, and that's what kind of hurts. I mean, it's...
We do have a company that audits the unemployment bills, and that costs the town about $3,000 a year roughly, and they go through every bill and make sure that the claim is valid, and they'll protest some of them, which will result in a future credit on another bill. So they're actively look at that, but the most recent bill just came in. It was only about $3,000 for a month, so that's really good. This time of year tends to kind of fall off. July, August, September tends to be high because of the teachers getting pink slips at the end of June, and if they don't get a letter of reasonable assurance that they're going to be hired back, then I believe that they can collect.
Yeah.
What about seasonal employees? Do they, can they collect?
Seasonals are not eligible.
No.
Not eligible, okay. Well, I'll follow the lead on this one, but I'm okay with it.
This proposal funds the van driver, which we have identified is a priority, as you
Priority,
said.
That's right, and it also funded the additional hours for your inspectional service department, which was also something that I felt, and I think the board have expressed in the past, that was quite important, especially with the amount of traffic and the amount of inspections that are done in that department.
I'm not as familiar with the library budget, but it sounds like one of two requested positions is funded still
Yes.
for the library.
Yes.
So we're not funding the requested police officers that the police department requested, or the fire lieutenant,
That's correct.
and some additional overtime in the fire budget. So I think those are probably the bigger cuts, along with DPW postponing some of the stormwater
Yes.
project
Initiatives.
commencement.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with the recommendation here.
And it's early in the process. We still, we don't even have the governor's budget yet.
Right,
Amy
so-
and I
so like there
weekly
could be some
look at
add backs.
revenues. We continue to watch those and do assumptions on a weekly basis to see if there's any movement there. So we may be coming back with different.
Excise
Last time I
tax
looked at the
bills-
revenues,
They just went out.
the sheet you gave the warrant committee, it looked like it was tracking pretty on target as opposed to, certainly didn't look like it was tracking over target.
No, we looked at it for a while again today, hoping that maybe we'd find something, but anything that might indicate a little bit of an uptick from our original projections for 16, there was something else that
Now, motor vehicle excise bills have gone out?
Yes.
they just went out.
Yeah.
So I got mine last Friday.
And what was the total, do we know what the total was?
I do not know.
I'd just be curious to see what that total was compared to last year. I mean, because we really jacked that number up quite a bit compared to FY15, and I'd be curious to see how.
Yep.
We can follow up on that tomorrow.
Okay, so the scenario here is, again, is not premised on an override. And we should mention again that there's no question that in order to fund the extra police positions or the fire positions, we would have to do an override. And the warrant committee had recommended last year that there be an override this year. When we took a vote on following their scenario E, which they had already voted before us, and the school committee had also looked at it, it was with the understanding that we're at the end of will have been, by that time, by this time next year, will be a 7-year period in which we have not had an operating override. We do have the firefighter Pickens medical override, which is will be on the April ballot. seeking an authorization for up to $500,000, and we need some certainty on that. So we've already voted to put that question before the voters in April, but the warrant committee and our vote when we voted on the scenario E was that it contemplates that there would be an operating override next year. And that there would be which the school committee in particular, the school committee chairman had, I had talked with him a number of times, and their feeling was that they needed it's not they, it's we the town needed a longer period of time to do an educational campaign and to, given that it's been 7 years since we've had an operating override. So we shouldn't just let that, we shouldn't keep that outside of the dialogue, even though we're focusing on cuts here through the town administrator's proposal. We're expecting that we'll be seeking an operating override next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not on, while I agree with this, in terms of the total plan, I still think it's a mistake, but, and I don't support it, but.
But we should take a vote on this.
Sure.
On this proposal.
But I want to reiterate that I have spoken with all the department heads under your jurisdiction as well as department heads not under your jurisdiction. And they all understand what their cut is and what it means to their budgets. And I think everybody, while no one likes to see a cut to their budget, they want, they all want to be able to fund their budget at level service of what they feel that they need to run their departments effectively and efficiently. They all understand and they support the potential cut.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we support the town administrator's recommended departmental, for lack of a better term, budget cuts for FY16 for town side and other non-school department budgets.
For $651,499.
$651,499.
Second the motion.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Then all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
I say good job to anybody who was involved in talking these department heads into reducing their...
I think it was primarily Anne Marie and Amy, so
Yeah,
Primarily Anne
great.
Marie.
Thank you very much.
No, me too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. We are on to number 8, which is, this is a request for us to approve and sign peer review contracts for one of the Chapter 40B projects. This is the H&W Apartments on Randolph Ave. And Town Council John Flynn has recommended that the Board of Selectmen, rather than the Board of Appeals, sign the contracts, but they have been arranged or obtained, or engaged, I guess is the better word, by the Board of Appeals. This is an engineering firm and a traffic engineering firm that will do peer review on the proposal.
Are the peer reviews are covered by the developer?
By a fee that
The
the
applicant,
applicant
yeah.
pays,
Mhm.
yes.
So basically, this is a contract that, this is a company that we're going to hire to read their contracts,
To read the traffic study and,
Yes.
and what's the other?
interpret it for us.
Yes.
And give an opinion to the Board of Appeals.
Right. Okay, so this
Yeah,
is...
we have copies of the contracts, but
Right.
again, they're really engaged by the Board of Appeals. It's just a matter of the Board of Selectmen being the appropriate authority to sign and approve them.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign contracts for the following. Contract between the town and Niche Engineering, Inc. for civil engineering peer review services related to the Chapter 40B application submitted by H&W Apartments for property off Randolph Avenue, and a contract between the town and Vanass and Associates, Inc. for traffic engineering peer review services related to the Chapter 40B application submitted by H&W Apartments for property off of Randolph Ave.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a one-day liquor license request.
Okay, I'll move to approve a one-day liquor license request for St. Agatha School for a fundraising event that will take place on March 21st, 2015 at 440 Adams Street from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 10, our demolition agreement with Carrick Realty Trust expires today, and we had been putting this on a short week-to-week or a couple-of-week extension. My recommendation is we extend this until one of our later March dates, probably the 31st.
Can you tell us where we are with this, Katie?
I don't really have an update since the last meeting on...
Has there been a conservation meeting? Or is that what we're waiting for, a conservation?
I don't know when the next conservation meeting is. There was one, but I'm not sure when it's...
It's March 10th?
Okay, there's another date in March. So we could, I think we should
31st.
extend this to March 31st.
Okay, I'll move to extend the deadline for concurrent demolition of the town-owned property at 0 Central Ave and the Carrick Realty Trust property at 131 Elliott Street to March 31st, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Administrators Report.
Yes, Madam Chair, again, I just want to thank all of your department heads for coming together. You know, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a team to help combat the horrific snows that the town has been seeing over the last month. And I just want to reiterate that, you know, we have a plan, an action plan in place, and, you know, it's to clear the sight lines, it's to widen the roads, it's to address public safety, and it's to get our schools cleaned up. And I just want people to be cognizant that we have a plan in place. We're addressing the issues. We hear the residents of the town and their concerns. And I hope that they bear with us while we put this action plan in place.
And thank you again for all of your efforts on this. Under the Chair's report, the only thing I wanted to briefly mention is that on Sunday, all three of us attended a meeting that I guess you'd call them the Friends of the Swift Hat Shop
For lack
building.
of better, yeah.
Joanna Spinks, Harriet Manning, Mary Noble, and Jana Christensen put together a little meeting over at the library, and it was informational. It was a chance for them to get the word out, get some people to stop by, sign
Pretty well
a
attended.
petition. Yeah, they had probably 20, 25 people there. So all of us went and listened to what they had to say, and they're a very engaged group and very hopeful that there'll be a plan in place to do something with the Swift Hat Shop so that we don't lose another historic building in town. We've lost too many. So I thought they all did a nice job, and Joanna led the meeting, was the prime speaker, and they all,
Yep.
they made a real effort, and they're the owner of the building, Mike Roberts was there.
I think Mike did a very good job just in terms of being genuine, honest, and open about what he thinks about the building and you know, what his plans are. And
Yes.
I think give him some reassurances that he really doesn't want to tear the building down. It's his,
Actually, that was reassuring.
yeah.
So we hopefully we'll be able, we did let them know that we had approved a charge at the last meeting. So hopefully at our next meeting, we'll be able to appoint the committee. I did talk to Steve O'Donnell, the Historical Commission Chair, and he's got a couple of people in mind from his committee. They'll be meeting before we meet next so that they can appoint, or give us the names of 2 people to appoint. But
Okay.
he's a couple of people on his committee who he thinks have the right backgrounds to be on this. And we've reached out to a few others, and if anyone has reached out to any potential committee members, just let Anne Marie know where things stand or whether people are accepting and interested in serving so that we can try to get the 9 members in place. I have nothing else to report. Anyone have anything else to report?
No, nothing to report.
Citizen speak response?
There's only so much snow we can talk about, right?
Yes.
We've had a lot of discussions about snow. Future agenda items. Then we have no executive session tonight, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now we'll convene a meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust. And we have a request from Pulte Homes of New England to extend the due diligence period.
I'll move to approve a request from Pulte Homes of New England LLC to extend the due diligence period until May 6th, 2015.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a motion to adjourn the Governor Stoughton trustees meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. We are adjourned.